I've done quite a lot of work in my shop to try to get things organized, but so far most of that has been for the tools that I want close at hand. The next step is to deal with the random stuff piled on these old, very basic shop shelves. So today I'm going to build this. This is part one of a two-part build. The next part will be the upper cabinets. Hopefully that'll be next week's video. In my original plans for the shop, I thought I'd put something in this area for storage. But that was before we decided to build the stairs to the loft. Now that the stairs are no longer in the shop, I think the place where the stairs used to be is a better spot for these cabinets. I'm making the cabinets from 3/4 inch birch plywood, and later I'll use MDF for the countertop. The first parts I'm going to cut are the sides of the cabinet boxes. My usual way of cutting a 4x8 sheet down to size is to use the skill saw with the Bora track on top of the workbench with some styrofoam under it, so I don't cut into the table. But for this first one, I need to cut the sheet lengthwise, and my saw guide is too small. So I had to find a 2x4 that was mostly straight. And since no 2x4 is perfectly straight, I made my cut slightly wider than it needed to be, and then I can trim it to size later. After the long cut, now I can use the saw guide to make the cross cuts. After cutting the 6 sides that I'll need, I cut the rough sizes for the drawers as well. I'm done with the skill saw for now, so now I can put it away and head over to the table saw and start cutting the cross supports. I'll also cut out all the parts for the drawers. There are a lot of drawers. The drawers are the correct width now, but they need to be cut to length. There was a time where I would do a cut like this at the miter saw, but the crosscut sled has almost made the miter saw obsolete. I really only use it if the boards are too long and won't fit on the crosscut sled. The cabinet sides will get a notch cut out for the toe kick, so I set up a square and cut it with the jigsaw, but I may as well have done that freehand, since it seems I can't cut a straight line with a square. That's okay though, a little bit of crooked line here won't make any difference in the end. One more thing needs to be done before I can assemble these boxes. I need to make some pocket holes. It's been a while since I used the pocket hole jig, but now it's time to put it to work. Now I can just clean that up and get ready to assemble the boxes. This pocket hole clamp is amazing for this job. I think it was worth every penny. There, that's one box in place and leveled. You'll see later just how uneven the floor is in this shop. The middle box won't have any drawers. It's going to be a cupboard with a couple of shelves. So I'm going to make some marks for drilling holes for shelf pins. I start by making some lines in pencil and then use an awl to make a little hole to help guide the drill bit. My drill press isn't big enough for this job, so I'm going to do it by hand. And to make sure I don't drill all the way through, I'll put a little tape flag on the drill bit. After the holes were done, I assembled the next 2 boxes, just like the first one. Now I'm ready to put them in their place. But remember I mentioned that the shop floor is not level. Well, now you see just how far from level it is. The barn was made with drainage in mind, and the floor slopes down this way and this way. And once I have all the boxes shimmed and leveled, you can really see how much this floor slopes. Had I known that I'd need to shim the cabinets this much, I may have altered the measurements a bit, so the sides were progressively longer as I went along. But this is going to have to do. All I need to do now is attach the boxes together with some screws. Now I get to make some drawers. A lot of drawers. These aren't going to be anything fancy. I'm just going to use pocket holes for these. Then I'll do my best to make sure they're square before adding the screws. The drawer bottoms are going to be made from this 1/4 inch plywood. So like the other plywood, I have to cut it down to more manageable pieces with the skill saw and the saw guide. And then I can cut them to size with the table saw. These are just going to be glued right to the bottom of the drawer and held in place with some brad nails. With these drawer bottoms being a 1/4 inch thick, I'm hopeful that the glue and nails will be enough to keep them from falling apart anytime soon. I did cut the drawer bottoms just slightly bigger than the drawers, So now I can trim them to the exact size with the trim router. I have all my drawers built now, so I can start installing the drawer slides. The cabinet boxes that have drawers don't have a full board on the bottom. I know a lot of people will add a board on the bottom, but I don't think it's required when the cabinets are filled with drawers. But it does come in handy when adding the slides. So I rigged up my own temporary bottom, just so I had a starting point for the slides. I used some scrap wood as a spacer and added the first slide. After both slides are in, I can add the first drawer. Then I can use that same spacer for the next slide. For my method of adding the slides, it's not all that important where the slides are, as long as it's within the area that the drawer will sit in. I use another piece of scrap to make sure the drawers are spaced apart the right amount, and then just attach the slides to the drawer. Again, using a little flag to make sure I don't go all the way through with the drill. 20 slides for 10 drawers are all in and ready for the next step, and that step is to add some drawer fronts and handles. I thought I would 3D print some handles and see how they look. I thought maybe some bright contrasting color would look good, so I went with this orange, and we'll see how it looks. For the drawer fronts, I cut them all from one piece of the birch plywood, so I can match the grain all the way up. These are only shop cabinets, but I still want to try to make them look nice. And that doesn't look too bad. Next, I need to add the cupboard door, and for that, I need to add some hinges. I picked up these soft close hinges and this Craig hinge jig. I've never installed cabinet door hinges before, so hopefully this isn't too difficult. I managed to get the door installed and attach the handles. And the base cabinet's nearly complete. I just need to add the countertop. And that is made from one of the messiest things you can cut in a shop, MDF. MDF makes the finest powdery sawdust there is, and I highly recommend you wear a decent mask when cutting this stuff. Even with the mask, I still left the shop for a bit after cutting all of this, so the dust cloud could settle. I want the top to be flat and strong, because it is a workshop. So I'm going to use 2 sheets of MDF for the countertop. The 2 sheets are held together with screws from underneath. Most people already know that MDF is a bit soft and the edges can break away easily, so I like to round over the edges. That seems to help reduce the breakage a bit. And if I thought cutting MDF with a skill saw was messy, using the router is much worse. I added a backsplash as well. I think it looks better and it'll help protect the thin paneling on the wall. I used wood glue to attach it, but it wasn't sitting quite flush with the wall, so I had to get creative and figure out a way to hold it in place while it dried. That seemed to work well enough. Now I add a bead of caulking for the seams. After waiting for that to dry, it's time to add a little bit of protection to the countertop. The reason I used MDF for the countertop was it's cheaper, and it can be easily replaced when it gets too beat up. But to help it last a little longer, I'm adding a few coats of this water-based Varathane, with some sanding in between coats. That not only adds some protection, but it also improves the looks. Everything is done, but I'm not sure I like the orange handles. I thought I would print new handles, but this time with a wood PLA. After adding those, I think it looks much better. Let me know in the comments below what you think. The wood handles or the orange handles? Next week I'm going to add the cupboards up top, so stay tuned for that, and click here to learn more about the crosscut sled featured in this video.